I teased, "When we're older, I'll marry you," she softly replied. "I hope you actually do." The twin suns were just beginning to set, casting long shadows across the uneven landscape. He laughed, a bright, carefree sound as Lyra darted ahead, nimble and quick, her dark hair flying behind her. "You're going too slow," she called over her shoulder, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Jalen grinned and pushed himself harder. He didn't need speed to catch her, he had endurance and stubbornness. But Lyra was fast, faster than anyone else he knew. She was always moving, always exploring, and always curious. That curiosity had gotten them into trouble more than once. "Wait," Jalen shouted. "I'll catch you before the forest." The forest was dangerous. Its alien flora was full of thorns, quick vines, and strange luminous fungi that glowed faintly as the sun sank lower. Their parents always warned them not to go too far, but today, neither of them cared. Today was about running, laughing, and pretending the world belonged entirely to them. Lyra skidded to a halt at the edge of a shallow ravine. She looked back, her chest heaving and her eyes bright. "You're going to lose, Jalen." "Never," he said, smiling, though he was tired. He slowed as he approached her, careful not to trip. "I'm just letting you feel like you're winning." Lyra rolled her eyes but laughed anyway. There was something magical about laughter here, in the middle of a colony that worked hard to survive. Life wasn't easy on this planet. Water was scarce, and the winds often carried fine, biting dust. Crops grew slowly, and every day was a struggle. Yet, somehow, Jalen and Lyra always found moments like this, small pockets of freedom. As they caught their breath, Lyra pointed toward a glinting shape partially buried in the ground. "Look," she said. "What's that?" Jalen knelt and brushed away the dust. His fingers traced the outline of a smooth, metallic object, unlike anything the colonists had seen before. It pulsed faintly, a soft blue light vibrating beneath its surface. "Do you think it's alien?" Jalen asked, eyes wide. "Maybe," Lyra whispered, crouching beside him, "but it doesn't look dangerous." The artifact was small, no bigger than a loaf of bread, but its presence felt important. Something about the way it hummed made both of them feel that their discovery was bigger than themselves. "We should tell someone," Jalen said finally. "But not yet. Let's just look at it a little longer." They sat there together, hands hovering near the artifact, feeling the strange energy pulse under their fingers. Neither spoke for a long time. The suns dipped lower and the sky turned a deep shade of orange, then purple, the first stars beginning to sparkle faintly. Finally, Jalen broke the silence. "When we're older," he said with a teasing grin, "I'll marry you." Lyra looked at him, surprised, but her lips curved into a soft smile. She didn't tease back, didn't laugh. She just whispered almost to herself, "I hope you actually do." Jalen felt a strange warmth spread through him. He didn't know why she said that so softly or why it felt important, but he nodded and tucked the moment carefully into his memory. Over the next few weeks, life continued much as usual. They went to the colony's small school, learned about math, science, and the history of the worlds humans had settled. But the planet had other lessons as well. One morning, while walking to school, they found part of the forest had been trampled. Alien footprints, or something that looked alien, crossed the colony's perimeter. The elders were tense. "Keep your children close," one said grimly. "The outer lands are no longer safe." Jalen and Lyra shared a glance but said nothing. The warning made the forest feel even more thrilling, more secret. After school, they went back to the artifact. It was still there, pulsing gently. Jalen placed his hand on it, and for a moment he felt as though it was alive, responding to his presence. "I think it wants us to find it," he said quietly. "Or it wants to tell us something," Lyra added. Her voice was thoughtful. "Maybe it's a message." They spent the afternoon carefully examining it. They marked its location on a small map they had drawn, planning to return another day. They didn't know what it was or why it was here, but they felt connected to it, as if discovering it was the first step in something much bigger. Weeks passed. The seasons on the planet were subtle but noticeable. Dust storms gave way to rare rains, and the twin suns' path shifted slightly. Jalen and Lyra grew closer with every passing day. They shared secrets, dreams, and small victories. A repaired solar panel, a tiny garden that survived the dry wind, the first time they managed to climb a rocky ridge together. "Do you remember what you said?" Lyra asked one evening as they watched the sun set behind the horizon. Jalen raised an eyebrow. "About marrying you," she nodded, smiling softly. "Yes, I meant it, even now." He felt his heart beat faster. "Even if the world is big and scary, even if we're busy or far away." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Even then, that promise, it matters." The word stayed with Jalen. It wasn't just a child's game anymore. It was a bond, a small anchor in a world full of uncertainty. One day, a real threat appeared. Raiders from the neighboring system attacked the colony's outer farms. They were fast and heavily armed, more experienced than the colonists expected. Jalen and Lyra watched from the edge of the settlement as alarms blared and the adults rushed to defend their homes. Jalen felt a surge of determination. "We can't just hide," he said. "We have to help." Lyra nodded. She grabbed his hand and together they ran toward the chaos. Not with weapons, yet, but with the kind of quick thinking and cleverness that humans had in abundance. They guided workers to safety, helped herd animals into secure pens, and noticed small weaknesses in the raiders' setup. The raiders were surprised by how organized the humans were. One even shouted, "They're smarter than I thought." By the time reinforcements arrived, the raiders were confused, disorganized, and eventually forced to retreat. Jalen and Lyra stood together, breathing hard, looking at the tiny scratches and dust on their clothes, feeling pride in what they had done. "That was amazing," Lyra said, her face glowing in the light of the setting suns. Jalen smiled. "We did it together." As the sky darkened and the first stars shone brightly, he glanced at her. "I'll keep my promise," he whispered. Lyra's soft smile answered him before words were needed. Even in a dangerous, growing colony on a faraway planet, the promise between them had become something stronger than fear, stronger than survival. It was hope, courage, and the quiet belief that humans, though small, could make a difference. And somewhere in the forest, the artifact pulsed gently, as if agreeing. Years had passed since the day Jalen and Lyra discovered the glowing artifact. The colony had grown, slowly but steadily, carving life out of the harsh alien land. The twin suns now felt familiar, a comforting rhythm in the sky, but life remained difficult. Water was still precious, crops demanded careful tending, and dust storms could destroy weeks of work in a single afternoon. Jalen had grown tall and strong, his hands calloused from repairing engines, constructing homes, and navigating the colony's rugged terrain. Lyra, meanwhile, had become a careful observer of life, studying the strange alien plants, analyzing soil and water, and cataloging the tiny creatures that thrived despite the planet's harshness. She moved with quiet confidence, her mind always thinking, always curious. Despite the pressures of the colony, they never forgot their childhood promise. It had changed, grown deeper. The teasing words had matured into an unspoken bond, one that gave them comfort even in the hardest times. One afternoon, alarms rang out across the settlement. The twin suns shone high, casting no shadows, but the warning sirens painted fear in every home. The colony's leader, an older man named Harlan, addressed the crowd with a grim expression. "Outer perimeters report unusual activity," Harlan said. "Alien ships. We don't know their intentions, but all able-bodied colonists must prepare." Jalen felt his heart beat faster. This was not the raiders they had faced as children. These ships were larger, darker, and moved with precision. Lyra grabbed his arm. "We need to go," she said, eyes wide but calm. "We can help," Jalen nodded. "Together," he said. The colony's defenses were basic. They had improvised turrets, a few drones, and some small energy shields. Most of the weapons were built by Jalen and a few others, clever designs that relied on human ingenuity rather than raw firepower. When the alien ships descended, the colonists quickly realized the difference in strength. The aliens were advanced, sleek, and unyielding. Yet Jalen noticed something unusual. One of the ships moved as if it was reacting to something unseen. His mind raced and he remembered the artifact. "Lyra," he called. "The artifact. The one we found in the forest. It might be connected." Lyra's eyes widened. "You think it can do something?" "I don't know," Jalen admitted, "but we have to try." They ran to the forest, hearts pounding as the colony's alarm screamed behind them. The artifact lay exactly where they had left it years ago, pulsing gently as if waiting. Jalen reached out and the soft blue light spread over his hands, warming him. Lyra placed her hand next to his, and the artifact seemed to react even stronger, flickering in patterns that resembled the alien ship's movements. "It's communicating," Lyra whispered, "or guiding." "Then we need to follow," Jalen said. They carried the artifact to a small hill overlooking the colony. From this vantage point, they could see the alien ships moving in calculated patterns. Every time a ship hovered near the colony's defenses, the artifact pulsed in sync with it, revealing weak points. "We can do this," Jalen said, determination hardening his voice. "We can help." Lyra nodded, her hand tight around his. "Human ingenuity," she said with a small smile. "Let us show them what we can do." The battle that followed was not one of brute force, but cleverness. Jalen and Lyra directed the colony's defenses based on the artifact's pulses. Turrets fired in unexpected sequences, energy shields were moved to cover vulnerable areas, and drones acted in ways the aliens could not predict. The invaders hesitated, surprised by the humans' resourcefulness. Colonists, inspired by Jalen and Lyra, moved with courage. Farmers grabbed tools, children assisted with alarms, and engineers improvised devices to disrupt the alien ship systems. Humans, it seemed, were small but clever, adaptable in ways the aliens had not expected. Hours passed, the sun's beginning to dip toward the horizon. Jalen's face was streaked with sweat and dust. Lyra's hair clung to her forehead, but neither stopped. They worked as one mind, reading the artifact, reading the battlefield, anticipating the aliens' next move. At one point, an alien ship swooped dangerously close, firing energy blasts at the colony's shields. Jalen shouted to Lyra, "Now, move the drones to the left. The artifact, look at its pulse." Lyra followed, activating the drones in a pattern she had never tried before. The ship staggered, their movements disrupted, as the humans took advantage of the temporary confusion. For the first time, a sense of hope filled the colonists' hearts. When the last ship retreated, disappearing into the distant skies, a cheer rose from the colony. Exhausted but victorious, Jalen and Lyra collapsed near the artifact, breathing heavily. "That worked," Jalen said, staring at the artifact. "We actually helped." Lyra smiled softly. "We did, together." But even in that moment of relief, both knew this was only the beginning. The aliens would return and they would come stronger, more prepared. The artifact pulsed faintly, almost as if warning them. The future held challenges far greater than a single battle. In the days that followed, the colony worked to repair the damage. Jalen continued strengthening defenses, while Lyra studied the artifact, trying to understand its origin. She discovered strange patterns in the energy, hints of a civilization long gone. "Look at this," Lyra said one evening, pointing to the glowing lines across the artifact's surface. "It's a map or a message. Someone or something wanted it to be found." Jalen frowned. "Could it be from the aliens?" "Not them," Lyra replied. "Too old, too different. This is something else, something ancient." The thought filled them with awe and fear. They were no longer just children running through the forest. They were caretakers of a secret far older than humanity, one that could change the course of the colony or the galaxy itself. Despite the looming threat, Jalen and Lyra found small moments of peace. They walked through the colony at night, sharing memories of their childhood adventures. They laughed over old mistakes, teased each other as they had years before, and occasionally sat in silence, watching the twin suns set. "One day," Jalen said softly, "when all this is over, I'll keep my promise." "I know you will," Lyra replied, her voice calm and sure. "I've never doubted it." And even as the stars began to sparkle faintly in the darkening sky, the artifact pulsed gently nearby, as if agreeing. Its soft light reminded them that humanity, clever and adaptable, had already made its mark. And whatever threats came next, Jalen and Lyra were ready, not just because of weapons or technology, but because they had courage, curiosity, and each other. The colony slept that night under a quiet sky, unaware that the battle had awakened interest far beyond their world. The artifact hummed softly, and somewhere in the darkness eyes watched. Not all were friendly, but for now humans had survived, humans had fought, and humans had hope. Jalen and Lyra sat together under the twin sun's fading light, holding hands, feeling the warmth of the planet and the bond between them. It was a small victory, but a significant one, proof that humans, though young and fragile in the universe, could rise to challenges greater than themselves. And somewhere deep in the forest, the artifact pulsed once more, as if whispering, "The story is just beginning." The mornings on the colony had become tense, the twin suns rising over a world that felt smaller than the galaxy around it. Jalen stood on the edge of the settlement, scanning the skies with a mix of determination and worry. Lyra joined him, her notebook in hand, filled with observations about the artifact and its energy patterns. "We can't just wait," she said, her eyes serious. "If the aliens are observing us, they'll return. We need to understand them before that happens." Jalen nodded. "I agree, and I think the artifact is trying to guide us." He held it in his hands. It pulsed softly, the faint glow matching the rhythm of his heartbeat. "If it can show us weak points in battle, maybe it can lead us to their territory too." Lyra looked at him, a mixture of fear and excitement in her gaze. "You mean we go to them?" Jalen took a deep breath. "Yes, we need to see who they are and why they came. If we wait for them to attack again, it could be the end of the colony." The decision was not easy. Their parents were wary, the colony elders reluctant, but Jalen and Lyra were persistent. They argued, pleaded, and finally convinced the council. Knowledge was the best weapon, and they were among the few capable of understanding the artifact's guidance. The next day, they prepared a small craft, designed by Jalen himself, reinforced with energy shields and maneuvering thrusters. Lyra studied alien navigation charts and the artifact's energy pulses, plotting a course that would take them beyond familiar space. The craft was small but fast, perfect for two humans relying on ingenuity rather than brute force. As they lifted off, the colony watched with a mixture of fear and hope. Children waved, elders muttered prayers, and workers held their breath. Jalen and Lyra's hearts pounded, but neither spoke. They were focused, ready for the unknown. The stars stretched out before them, endless and bright. The artifact pulsed more rapidly as they left the planet's atmosphere, guiding them through uncharted space. Lyra adjusted the navigation controls according to the artifact's signals, her hands steady despite the adrenaline. Hours passed, and soon they were far from any human settlement. The first sight of the alien fleet was breathtaking. Ships of strange design floated silently in formation, metallic surfaces reflecting distant starlight. Jalen and Lyra could feel their hearts racing, but they held their composure. "They're huge," Lyra whispered, "and organized." "Not invincible," Jalen replied, determination in his voice. "Just advanced. We can do this." The artifact pulsed intensely, pointing toward a cluster of smaller ships. It seemed almost as if it were selecting a target, leading them to a specific location within the fleet. As they approached, an alien vessel detached from the cluster and moved toward them. The human craft's shields shimmered under the alien sensors, and the alien ship's lights flickered as if scanning. Jalen kept his hands steady on the controls, and Lyra observed every movement, every signal. Suddenly, a holographic projection appeared before them. It was not humanoid, not even familiar in shape. It was a shimmering figure, translucent, with multiple limbs and glowing lines across its body. Its voice echoed directly in their minds. "Humans," it said, "you are different." Lyra swallowed hard. "They can communicate mentally," Jalen nodded. "It seems so." "Be careful with words." The alien's projection shifted slightly. "Your species adaptable, resourceful, you survived our first approach. Few do, we observe, we learn, we consider." Jalen felt a mix of fear and pride. "We are humans," he said cautiously. "We survive, we adapt." "That is who we are." The alien seemed to pause. "Yes, but you think beyond survival, you innovate." Its voice or thought was curious, almost admiring. Curious, clever, dangerous. Lyra stepped forward. "We mean no harm, but we will protect our home. We will fight if necessary." A pause. Then in a voice that was almost gentle, the alien said, "Interesting. Perhaps we learn from each other." Over the next hours, Jalen and Lyra observed the alien fleet. They were advanced, yes, but not invincible. The artifact pulsed in patterns that allowed the humans to anticipate ship movements and understand some of their technology. Lyra noted that the ship's power system seemed tied to a central core, something she suspected the artifact could interact with. Jalen's mind raced. "We can't attack yet," he whispered, "but maybe we can communicate, show them what humans are capable of without starting a war." Lyra nodded. "The artifact is helping us understand them. Maybe it wants peace, or maybe it wants to see if humans can survive challenges." They decided to demonstrate ingenuity, human style. Using the artifact's energy, Jalen manipulated a small section of the alien ship's shields, creating a harmless but precise light display. The aliens responded, mimicking the pattern with their own ships. "It's a conversation," Lyra said, eyes wide. "Through light and energy," Jalen smiled. "Humans always find a way." Days passed as the two humans studied the fleet. They learned the aliens were not mindless invaders. They were explorers, observers of intelligent life. Their species valued strength and efficiency, but had rarely encountered a species with creativity, empathy, and adaptability combined. Humans, with their ingenuity, curiosity, and courage, fascinated them. One evening, Jalen and Lyra sat in their small craft, gazing at the stars between the ships. "I never imagined we'd see this," Lyra said softly. "The galaxy, it's bigger than we thought, and humans, we're not weak at all." Jalen took her hand. "We're stronger than we know. Together we can survive anything." Lyra smiled, remembering their childhood promise. "Even when we were just children running through the forest, we had courage. We just didn't know it yet." Jalen's heart swelled. "And one day I'll keep my promise, no matter what." The artifact pulsed once, softly, as if agreeing. Their breakthrough came unexpectedly. The alien fleet opened a small corridor, signaling them to approach a central vessel. The humans hesitated but understood that this was a chance to show intelligence and bravery. Carefully, they navigated through the corridor. Inside the central vessel, the environment was alien but not hostile. Strange patterns of light and floating energy pulsed through the room. The main projection of the alien spoke again. "You are humans. You have adapted, survived, and impressed. You are clever as your kind always is." Jalen swallowed. "We survive because we care. Because we think, we experiment, we learn from mistakes. That is humanity." The alien seemed to consider this, pulsing softly. "Perhaps we underestimated you. Perhaps humans are more than survival." Lyra stepped forward, holding the artifact. "This helped us, but it is more than power, it is guidance. It connects knowledge and understanding, and so do we. Humans, we learn, we care, and we create solutions where none seem possible." The alien paused, then shifted into a glowing pattern across the room. Then, perhaps humans are worthy. Perhaps we should consider alliance or observation. Jalen and Lyra exchanged a glance. They had not won a battle, but they had won respect, an acknowledgement from a species far more advanced than themselves. By the time they returned to their colony, they were exhausted, yet triumphant. The artifact pulsed gently, guiding them back safely. The colony welcomed them as heroes, though Jalen and Lyra knew this was just the beginning. They saw us for what we are, Jalen said quietly, watching the sun set. Humans are clever, adaptable, and brave. That's our strength. Lyra smiled, leaning against him. And we have each other. That makes us stronger than anything in the galaxy. Above them, the stars shone brightly, and somewhere far away, alien eyes observed, curious, cautious, and perhaps a little respectful. The universe had just noticed humanity. And humanity was ready. The colony was quiet, almost peaceful, but Jalen and Lyra knew it was only a brief calm. The alien fleet had retreated, but the artifact had revealed something troubling. Their previous skirmish had been a test, a probe to measure human ingenuity. And now the humans had passed that test, but passing it only drew more attention. Jalen, Lyra said as they reviewed the artifact's new readings, they're not done. They're coming back, and this time they'll be stronger, smarter. Jalen ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. Then we'll be ready. Humans survive, Lyra. We adapt. That's what we do. She smiled softly. And we'll do it together just like we always have. The colony's elders agreed to prepare. Workshops ran day and night. Engineers and pilots trained relentlessly. Farmers, teachers, and even children learned emergency procedures. Jalen and Lyra coordinated defenses, using every advantage the artifact could offer. Jalen's ingenuity showed immediately. He developed energy traps that could disable alien drones without destroying them, allowing the humans to observe and learn. Lyra used the artifact's pulses to predict enemy patterns, marking weaknesses in the aliens' attack formations. Humans began to act like a single organism, moving quickly, reacting to threats in ways that machines could not predict. The aliens rely on precision and repetition, Jalen explained to a group of colonists. But we are unpredictable. We adapt. That is our advantage. Lyra added, and we learn from mistakes. Every failure teaches us something new. That is what will make us stronger than them. The first strike came at dusk. Alien ships emerged from hyperspace, sleek and menacing, their metallic surfaces reflecting the colony's twin suns. But this time, humans were ready. Energy shields flared to life, turrets moved with uncanny precision, and drones darted like swarms of fireflies, confusing the invaders. Jalen and Lyra watched from the control hub, guiding the battle. Each pulse of the artifact revealed a new opportunity, a blind spot, a timing gap, or an energy fluctuation. Humans exploited every chance with clever, daring strategies. One alien ship dove low, attempting to disable the colony's water supply. Jalen shouted, "Divert the drones. Use the decoy lights now." Lyra activated the energy traps around the perimeter, creating a corridor of confusing signals. The alien ship staggered, confused and temporarily disabled. A small team of human pilots swooped in, using clever maneuvers to push the invaders back. The colony cheered, but there was no time to relax. The aliens were relentless, yet each attack seemed slower, less precise. Human unpredictability, combined with their clever use of the artifact, was turning the tide. Days passed and the humans grew stronger. Jalen designed improvised weapons using the colony's limited resources. Magnetic pulse emitters, energy nets, and light-based camouflage systems. Lyra continued analyzing the artifact, unlocking more of its potential, and discovering patterns that hinted at the ancient civilization that had created it. "It's a teaching device," she explained to Jalen one evening. "It shows us not just how to survive, but how to think differently, how to see solutions that aren't obvious. Jalen nodded. That's humans, Lyra. We think differently. We create where others only follow instructions. Their efforts culminated in a bold plan, a final strike to force the aliens into retreat or negotiation. Using the artifact, they mapped the alien fleet's energy core, discovering a weakness that no one had noticed before. It was risky. If they failed, the colony could be destroyed, but Jalen and Lyra had no choice. The day of the strike arrived. Humans moved like clockwork, each person knowing their role. Jalen piloted a small craft into the heart of the alien formation, guiding drones and traps with Lyra's direction. Lyra's hands flew over controls, activating energy pulses to disrupt the aliens' coordination. The aliens reacted quickly, firing in synchronized patterns. But human ingenuity was faster. Drones shifted unpredictably, energy nets blocked attack paths, and decoy signals tricked the invaders into blind maneuvers. At the critical moment, Jalen activated a magnetic pulse from the artifact, disrupting the central energy core of the alien fleet. Lights flickered across the vessels, and the once perfect coordination collapsed into chaos. The aliens struggled to regain control, but humans used the confusion to push forward. It was not brute force that won the battle, but cleverness, adaptability, and teamwork. The colony's people worked in unison, humans everywhere responding instinctively to threats, improvising strategies on the fly. The aliens, despite their advanced technology, were confounded by this unpredictability. As the last alien ship retreated, the colony erupted in cheers. Humans had triumphed not because they were stronger, but because they were clever, resourceful, and brave. Jalen and Lyra stood together on a hill overlooking the battlefield, their faces streaked with sweat and dust. The artifact glowed softly, pulsing in time with the colony's heartbeat. "We did it," Jalen said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Humans, we really did it." Lyra smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "We survived, we adapted, we won, and this is just the beginning." The artifact revealed more as they studied the aftermath. Its light showed patterns in the alien ship's retreat, suggesting that the invaders had learned something as well. They were not destroyed, they had observed humans, and now they understood that humans were not to be underestimated. "They'll return," Lyra said quietly, "but next time we'll be even better prepared." Jalen nodded, looking at the distant stars. "Humans are never weak. We survive, we adapt, we create. That is our strength." Their victory became a turning point. News of the humans' ingenuity spread across the colony, inspiring confidence and pride. Children learned to think creatively, engineers experimented with new designs, and scientists studied the artifact, unlocking more of its secrets. The colony had grown stronger, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. That night, as the twin suns set and the stars began to twinkle, Jalen and Lyra walked hand in hand through the colony. "Do you remember when we were children?" Lyra asked softly. "You promised to marry me someday." Jalen smiled. "I remember, and I will keep that promise." Lyra laughed quietly. "Even after everything, especially after everything," Jalen said. "We survived, Lyra, together, and we'll keep surviving no matter what comes next." The artifact pulsed gently nearby, as if acknowledging their words. Its soft blue glow reflected in their eyes, a symbol of hope, courage, and human ingenuity. In the weeks that followed, the colony rebuilt and improved. The humans had shown not only themselves, but also the universe that they were a force to be reckoned with. The alien invaders, impressed and cautious, began to observe from afar, uncertain whether to attack again or learn from the clever, resourceful species they had underestimated. Jalen and Lyra continued their work, studying the artifact, exploring the forest, and preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. They had discovered the true power of humanity, not strength, not numbers, not technology alone, but intelligence, creativity, and the courage to face the unknown. The colony thrived, a shining example of human potential. And somewhere far away, among the stars, the galaxy had begun to notice that humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and pioneers. Jalen and Lyra looked up at the night sky, holding each other's hands. The universe was vast, dangerous, and full of unknowns, but they were ready. Together, humans could rise to any challenge. And as always, the artifact pulsed gently, whispering its quiet approval. Humans had triumphed. Humans had survived. Humans had proved that even in the face of overwhelming odds, ingenuity, courage, and heart could shape the future. And this was only the beginning. The colony had changed. Once a struggling outpost on a harsh, distant planet, it now thrived. Buildings had expanded, energy shields gleamed, and crops grew in organized, protected fields. Yet for Jalen and Lyra, the most important changes were not visible. They were in the hearts and minds of the people. Humans had survived, adapted, and proved their worth, not just to themselves, but to the galaxy. Jalen stood on a hill overlooking the colony, the twin suns dipping low, painting the landscape in warm oranges and purples. Lyra joined him, carrying the artifact, which pulsed softly in her hands. Together, they watched as colonists went about their work with confidence and pride. Children ran freely, laughter echoing across the fields, while engineers and scientists studied the alien devices they had recovered. "We did it," Lyra said quietly, her voice filled with wonder. "Humans, we really did it." Jalen smiled, placing a hand on hers. "We did. And it's more than just survival. Look at them, they've grown. They're clever, brave, and ready for anything. That's humanity." The artifact pulsed gently, almost as if agreeing with him. Its soft blue light reflected in the eyes of the two humans, a reminder of the journey they had taken, from children playing in the forest to leaders of a thriving, victorious colony. But there was more work to be done. Reports from the outer perimeter indicated that alien scouts were still observing, learning from the humans' success. They were advanced, yes, but the humans had proved themselves clever, unpredictable, and courageous. Jalen and Lyra knew that the galaxy was vast, and this victory was only the first step. "We need to prepare," Jalen said, his eyes scanning the horizon. "We can't rely on luck. Humans need to be ready for whatever comes next." Lyra nodded, setting the artifact on a small stand. She studied its patterns, her mind racing with ideas. "The artifact is showing us more. It's not just a tool, it's a guide. We can use it to teach others, to expand our knowledge, and maybe make contact with other species that value intelligence and creativity." Jalen felt a swell of pride. That's exactly what humans do. We don't just survive, we create, we inspire, we reach further than anyone expects. Days turned into weeks as the colony improved. Workshops buzzed with activity, engineers tinkered with alien technology, and scientists like Lyra worked tirelessly to understand the artifact. Jalen organized training programs, teaching colonists how to use strategy, clever tactics, and quick thinking to overcome challenges. Even the children were involved. They learned about energy manipulation, observation, and improvisation. Jalen and Lyra taught them not with fear or pressure, but with encouragement. Humans, they said, had a special strength: curiosity, courage, and the ability to adapt. The artifact seemed to respond to this collective growth. Its pulses were stronger, brighter, and more consistent. It was as if it recognized humanity's ingenuity and courage, and perhaps even approved. One evening, as the twin suns set, Lyra and Jalen sat beneath a tree in the forest where it had all begun. The artifact glowed softly at their feet, filling the clearing with gentle light. They remembered the moment as children when Jalen had teased, "When we're older, I'll marry you," and how Lyra had replied softly, "I hope you actually do." Jalen took a deep breath. "Lyra, we've survived everything. We've faced danger, aliens, uncertainty, and we've done it together." Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the artifact. "Yes, And we've learned that humans are never truly weak. We adapt, we survive, we create solutions where none seem possible. He reached for her hand, feeling the warmth and strength that had been his constant companion for years. Then, I want to make that promise again, this time for real. Lyra, will you marry me? For a moment there was silence, broken only by the faint pulsing of the artifact and the distant sounds of the thriving colony. Then Lyra's face softened into a smile, brighter than the suns above. "Yes," she whispered. "I hope you actually do." Jalen laughed softly, pulling her close. "I promise, I always will." The artifact pulsed gently, almost as if sealing their promise, its soft light surrounding them in warmth. The bond between them was no longer a childhood game. It was a shared life, strengthened by adventure, survival, and triumph. The colony had become a beacon of human ingenuity. Alien scouts continued to observe, but now they did so with respect. Reports indicated that other alien civilizations had begun to notice humanity's cleverness, adaptability, and bravery. Jalen and Lyra realized that humans were no longer just survivors. They were players on a galactic stage, capable of shaping the future through courage and intelligence. Jalen looked at Lyra and said softly, "Humans have always been underestimated, but every time we rise. Every time we surprise the universe." Lyra nodded. "And we'll keep rising, not just for ourselves but for everyone who comes after us." In the weeks that followed, the colony celebrated their triumph. Festivals were held, not of weapons or war, but of ingenuity, creativity, and community. Children performed plays about clever humans overcoming impossible odds. Engineers demonstrated new inventions. Scientists explained discoveries inspired by the artifact. Humans had shown that their strength was not just physical, but mental and emotional, a combination that no alien force could easily overcome. Jalen and Lyra watched the celebrations quietly, standing together as the lights of the colony sparkled under the twin suns. "We've done more than survive," Lyra said softly. "We've shown what humans are capable of." Jalen squeezed her hand. "And we'll keep showing them together." The artifact glowed warmly between them, as if approving, as if acknowledging the journey, the growth, and the courage of the species it had helped guide. Years passed, and the colony flourished. Jalen and Lyra married under the alien sky, the twin suns casting a warm, golden glow over their celebration. Friends, family, and fellow colonists gathered, celebrating love, life, and human ingenuity. The artifact pulsed gently nearby, a silent witness to the bond that had started with a childhood promise and survived every challenge the universe had thrown at them. Even as humans explored further into the galaxy, encountering new challenges and unknown species, the lessons they had learned remained. Survival through courage, victory through ingenuity, and strength in unity. Jalen and Lyra's story had become a legend within the colony, a tale of promise, perseverance, and the endless potential of humanity. One night, after the celebrations had ended, Jalen and Lyra walked hand in hand through the forest. The artifact glowed softly, illuminating the path ahead. "Do you think the universe is ready for humans?" Lyra asked quietly, her voice full of wonder. Jalen smiled. "The universe doesn't get to decide. Humans make their own way. We adapt, we survive, we create. And together we rise." Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. "Then let's see how far we can go." The stars above sparkled like countless eyes, observing the small blue planet below. But now, humans were no longer just another colony. They were a species capable of shaping their own destiny, of thriving against impossible odds, and of inspiring respect across the stars. The artifact pulsed one last time for the night, its soft blue light reflecting in Jalen and Lyra's eyes. It had guided them, tested them, and now stood as a symbol of human triumph. And somewhere in the vastness of the galaxy, civilizations both near and far had begun to take notice. Humans had proven that they were clever, adaptable, and brave, a species that could not be ignored. Jalen and Lyra held each other close, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The universe was wide and full of unknowns, but humanity had proven that no challenge was too great for courage, intelligence, and heart. And so, under the twin suns of their home planet with the artifact pulsing softly beside them, Jalen whispered again, softly but firmly, "I'll always keep my promise." Lyra smiled, her hand in his, eyes shining with love and hope. "I've never doubted it." The story of humanity, their triumphs, and their ingenuity had reached a new chapter. And together, Jalen and Lyra would face the galaxy, not as children in the forest, but as humans who had learned to rise, to survive, and to shine. The future was theirs, and humans were ready.